Welcome to teachmeall.com. In this video, we're going to show you how to change the rear brake pads and rotors on this 2004 Ford Mustang LX.
That's right. Now we're going to review with you the tools we'll be using.
A jack, 2 jack stands, and 2 wheel chocks. Some new rear brake pads, and 2 new rear brake rotors. Some brake fluid, some brake parts cleaner, some anti-seize lubricant, high temperature caliper grease, and some thread lock. We also have a brake servicing kit that we borrowed from our local auto parts store, a 22mm box end wrench for the servicing kit tool, hose clamp pliers, a 12mm box end, an 11mm box end, a 50mm socket, a 12mm socket, and a 3/8 ratchet, a screwdriver, a 21mm socket and ratchet for the lug nuts, a 1/2 inch torque wrench, and a 3/8 drive torque wrench, some safety goggles, a bungee cord, a rubber mallet, a shop lot, a brake bleeder kit, and some shop towels. We also need a 15mm deep well socket. We'll put our wheel chocks in front of both front tires. Remove our center cap and loosen up our lug nuts 1/4 to 1/2 a turn. We do this for both sides. With the lugs loosened, we're going to use our jack to jack up the vehicle. Here we use the differential as a jacking point. Just get it high enough. We put our jack stands under the rear axle. We lower the vehicle onto the jack stands. Then we go ahead and remove all the lug nuts on both rear tires. Here we slide the tires up under the vehicle for convenience and for safety. Then we use our hose clamp pliers to clamp the brake line. Then we're going to identify the bolts we'll need to remove. First, the top caliper guide pin bolt. This is the bottom caliper guide pin bolt. We have the lower caliper mounting bracket bolt and the upper caliper mounting bracket bolt. Then we're going to remove our caliper guide pin bolts using our 12mm socket and ratchet. Now on the lower caliper guide pin bolt, we have to use a 12mm box end wrench because we cannot have access with a socket and ratchet. Once we have both caliper guide pin bolts removed, we'll remove our caliper and tie it up with our bungee cord. Then we're going to remove our brake pads. Then we're going to remove our caliper mounting bracket bolts using our 15mm socket and ratchet. Now on the bottom you'll notice we used a deep well 15mm socket because this nut and bolt were in the way of using the standard one. With both bolts removed, we can now slide our caliper mounting bracket off. Then we slide our old rotor off and slide our new rotor on, and we'll hold it in place using one of our lug nuts. Then we're going to use our brake parts cleaner and a clean rag to clean the oily residue off of the new brake rotor. We do this on the front and on the back. Now we're going to apply some anti-seize lubricant to the guide pins and our caliper mounting bracket. Greasing these pins will keep the brake pads wearing evenly. Now we're going to use some thread lock on the caliper mounting bracket bolts. And we'll slide our caliper mounting bracket back into place. We'll tighten the bolts up using our 15mm socket and ratchet, and we'll torque them to 85 foot-pounds unless otherwise noted. Now we're getting ready to install our brake pads. Then we're going to put these shims that came with the new pads on the back of the pads. You'll see where they're lining up in the holes on the back. Then we're going to remove our anti-rattle clips from the old pads and put them on the new pads. Again, on the other one, we'll put the shim on the back of the pad. And remove our clips over. Sometimes new brake pads come with new clips, but the ones we used here didn't, so we just reused our old hardware. Then we're going to slide our pads into place, starting with the outside pad. Then we'll install the inner pad. Just take your time with the clips, and they'll go into place. Now with both brake pads in place, we'll use our high temperature caliper grease and coat the back of both the inner and the outer pad. Here I'm using my finger to smooth out the grease. Then we're going to get ready to install our caliper. We remove it from the bungee cord. We'll remove our dust cover off the bleeder screw. Put our box and 11mm wrench over the bleeder screw. Use our brake bleeder kit. Then we're going to open up the bleeder screw. Then we're going to use this 21 30-seconds disc that came in our brake servicing kit with the short pins. We'll use this to compress the caliper piston. This is a spiral caliper, so we have to turn and compress the piston at the same time. So we use this tool from the brake servicing kit along with our disc that we showed you. And this piece here works like a disc brake spreader. Then we insert the tool into our caliper, making sure the pins line up with the slots on the piston. On the back piece, we'll turn to the right to tighten it up. We'll snug it down. Using a 22mm wrench, we'll tighten this up against the caliper. Once we get it snug down, we will twist the handle to the left as we tighten. Now continue snugging up the tool inside the caliper by turning it to the right, and then turn the handle to the left. Just keep doing this over and over again until the piston is compressed within the caliper. Once the piston is all the way compressed, we need to make sure these slots are at the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position. Now you may have to adjust the piston a little bit more by either turning it to the right or the left to make sure these are lined up. But they have to be at the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position because they slide into the pins on the back of the brake pad. Now we tighten up our bleeder screw, remove our brake bleeder kit, reinstall our dust cover, and slide the caliper into place over the brake pads. You may have to adjust the guide pin sometimes to get the caliper to slide into place. Once it's in place, we'll go ahead and put some thread lock on our caliper guide pin bolts. Then we slide our bolts into place. And also, if you're having a hard time getting the bolt in, sometimes this caliper guide pin can be twisted and keeps the caliper from seating properly. Here we're installing our bottom guide pin bolt. We'll tighten this one down using our 12mm box end wrench. On top we'll use our 12mm socket and ratchet. Then we're going to torque both bolts to 26 foot-pounds unless otherwise specified. Then we're going to remove our hose clamp pliers and move to the other side. Clamp down the brake line. Remove our caliper guide pin bolts. Here we use a screwdriver to pry our caliper off. Gently pry the caliper off. Once the caliper is removed, we'll tie it up using our bungee cord. Then we're going to remove our brake pads. And then we're going to remove our caliper mounting bracket. Caliper mounting brackets removed, so now we remove our rotor and put our new rotor on, again holding it in place with a lug nut. And we'll clean off the caliper using our brake parts cleaner and a clean rag. Then we're going to use the anti-seize lubricant on our caliper guide pins. And again, the reason we do this is it keeps the brake pads wearing evenly. And then we're going to apply a little thread lock to the caliper mounting bracket bolts. Slide the caliper mounting bracket back into place, insert our bolts. We'll tighten the bolts down using our 15mm socket and ratchet. And then we'll torque them to 85 foot-pounds unless otherwise specified. Again, we'll install our shims on the back of the brake pads. And we'll transfer our anti-rattle clips from our old pads to our new ones. And again, sometimes the new brake pads will come with new clips. Ours didn't, so we're reusing the old ones. We'll install our pads into the caliper mounting bracket. We're going to use our high temperature caliper grease on the back of both the inner and the outer pad. Then we're going to get ready to install our caliper. We'll remove the bungee cord that's tying it up. Remove our dust cover. Put our 11mm box end wrench over the bleeder screw. Use our brake bleeder kit. Open up the bleeder screw. Again, using our brake servicing kit, we will use the 21/32 disc. We'll compress the piston by turning it and compressing at the same time. We use our 22mm wrench to keep the tool snug within the caliper. We use the handle to twist and compress the piston. With the piston fully compressed, we'll make sure our slots are at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. Then we'll tighten up the bleeder screw, remove our brake bleeder kit, remove our wrench, install our dust cover, and slide the caliper into place over the new brake pads. Then we're going to apply some thread lock to our caliper guide pin bolts. Using our 12mm box end wrench, we'll tighten up the bottom bolt. Using our 12mm socket and ratchet, we'll tighten up the top one. And now we're going to torque these to 26 foot-pounds unless otherwise specified. On the bottom bolt, we could not get our torque wrench on here, so we used our box end wrench, and just make sure you do not go past 26 foot-pounds. Remove the hose clamp pliers, and now we're going to check our brake fluid. Then we check our master cylinder, and we'll add brake fluid until we get to the maximum line. We install our cap. Now we're going to get ready to bleed our brakes. We'll start with the caliper farthest from the master cylinder, which is our passenger side. We'll remove our dust cover. We'll install our wrench and our brake bleeder kit. Now with your partner inside the vehicle, have them depress the brake pedal, open up the bleeder screw, close the bleeder screw, have your partner release the brake pedal, and depress it again. Open up the bleeder screw, look for brake fluid, look for bubbles in the brake fluid, and if you have any, continue bleeding. If not, you're done. When you're done, remove the brake bleeder kit. Make sure your bleeder screw is tight and install your dust cover. We'll check the brake fluid one more time. Add as needed. And now we'll move to the driver's side. Move the dust cover. Place our box end wrench over the bleeder screw. Use our brake bleeder kit. Have your partner depress the brake pedal. Open up the bleeder screw. Watch for bubbles in the line. Tighten it back up. Have your partner release the brake pedal. Depress the brake pedal again. Open up the bleeder screw. Continue doing this until there's no more bubbles in the brake fluid. Once you're done, make sure your bleeder screw is tight. Remove the brake bleeder kit, install the dust cover. Again, check the brake fluid. Add as needed. Then we're going to reinstall our tires and wheels. Snug down the lug nuts. Move to the other side. Now with both rear tires installed and the lug nuts snug down, we're going to go ahead and raise our vehicle up and remove the jack stands. With the vehicle now on the ground, we're going to torque our lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds unless otherwise noted, and make sure you do this in a crisscross pattern. Reinstall our center cap, and then we move to the other side, again torquing to 100 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern.
Well, we hope this video will help you change the rear brake pads and rotors on your 2004 Ford Mustang LX.
Send any comments you may have to comments@teachmeall.com. And as always, thank you for visiting teachmeall.com and have a great day.